This conference will now be recorded.
So, hi, welcome to a different version of Monkhouse on Mondays today. This is all about our post-recovery lockdown survey that we've done in partnership with Max Associates for Global's DataHub. We've had some great support from Big Wave, and we will get some support from My Customer Lens. So with me, I've got Utku for Global's DataHub. Utku, how are you today, mate?
Really good, Dave. Thanks for inviting me to this series. Glad to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure. And you know, the work that we've done has been fantastic, and how you're able to operate at 2 o'clock in the morning and still look so brilliant is really frustrating for me. So, but that's by the by. I don't want your secret. I'm not going to share that. I'm just really interested in your views of how you think representative bodies, UK Active, Sport England, those types of people, how are they viewing and how are they going to use the insight that we've produced?
Sure. So these times are really important, where you put data at the center of decision making, and because it's unprecedented times, there is nothing you can rely on from the past. So every bit of information coming to the scene is important for people to really understand what's going on and how they should plan for it. I think it will be important for all parts of the sector, from Sport England to UK Active to all operators and local authorities, to actually understand what the data is telling them and to plan accordingly. Obviously, it's important to notice that this is by far the largest sample size provided in the sector, and decisions that will be taken based on that will be quite reliable in terms of people understanding how they can plan the recovery scenarios. I think the parts where it will be particularly important for operators will be to really understand what their members have been doing since the lockdown. And I mean, a couple of interesting things there was really that 52% of people are being less active since the lockdown has started, and only 22% saying they've been more active in this time period. So as much as online classes and virtual activities have taken really a big jump, still there is a serious activity problem of the sector in this lockdown period. And also it is very insightful how much it tells us about people's willingness to return. So knowing that in total 88% of our customers will be ready at some point to return to the facilities is an important indicator of people looking forward for the sites to reopen. Saying that, it's also very important to understand what will be their priorities when things open, because one thing is knowing that they will come back, but what is the critical factor that will make that happen is going to be, obviously, cleanliness and friendliness of staff will be important, but I think one piece of insight I will draw specific attention to will be that the expectation is operators should put new procedures and processes in place to implement social distancing measures. So how are you going to address that customer confidence? By putting the right systems and processes in place and bring your customers back quickly. So I think in terms of how this insight will be useful, I will put two main parts. One is to do your scenario planning properly and making sure you understand and know what to expect. And then you understand the type of prioritization you need to do for your programs and operations that will drive revenues and participation in the short term and also in the mid and long term. And the second part will be how you address the customer confidence question and put the right measures in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's far more than just putting the processes in place. I think we've realized that actually we have to communicate what we've done. So making sure people know how we clean, what are our processes in advance. You know, can we do a quick virtual tour of the leisure centre before we reopen so people know what they can expect? And I think there's a real challenge around empathy, and that comfort level was really important to help people understand how to, I suppose, almost train staff to be more empathetic, to realise that people want to come back, but actually they're still a little bit wary, a little bit scared. So what is it that we can do to create that empathy between our teams and our customers so that they are confident? And I think that comfort question was really valuable in targeting that type of stuff. So that's really interesting. Now, I know UK Active are about to launch a white paper, and you at DataHub have been part of that white paper. So what sort of things are you doing in that? What will we find when we read that tomorrow?
Sure. So, I mean, since the start of the lockdown, actually even before that, since the start of the COVID period, we've been working closely with data partners, with yourself, with UK Active and Sport England and a lot of other partners to really share data and insight with the sector to help them understand the impact of what's happening and also how they look forward. And the white paper is part of that process. So mainly we are structuring it into 3 parts. The first part being really more about understanding what the impact has been on different parts of the sector, whether it is different types of operators, different demographics of people, to give us insight about what might likely happen when we reopen. And then the second part is what actually happened during the lockdown period. So how people's attitudes have changed from online classes, from home equipment sales, and all the other data that we have collected from the sector. And the third part is looking ahead and understanding how the sector will recover and what the different scenarios will be. Obviously, we are relying on 2 important pieces of information. One is about people's resilience, so customers' confidence to come back to facilities, where we use a lot of survey data, one of which is our post-lockdown recovery survey, but also the likes of Sport England Comrade survey, TA6 survey, My Customer Lens survey. So there is a lot of survey data going into the modeling, and also DataHub's participation data, membership cancellations, and a lot of data from other countries, the likes of Europe Active webinars, data from Scandinavia, China, about what happened in other sectors is being used for that modeling work. And we constantly compare our results with the new evidence coming to work. Important thing to realize there is, coming back to my earlier point from the previous question, is the data is changing very quickly, because every day new customer surveys is coming to life and people's perception is changing with the news coming to our homes every day. So we are trying to keep it really dynamic in terms of looking at the models and revising the information in a regular way. And the final point there is any information on that modeling work will be subject to different operators, because how your management type is, what type of customers you serve to, how you shape your program offer will fundamentally change how you implement that recovery plan and actually achieve those rates we will be publishing as part of the white paper. So it's going to be really interesting, and I think it will put a lot of insight in front of the operators to really understand the impact and plan their recoveries.
And it's really interesting because, of course, you know, I see the nice sparkly work that you do for us on our platform that collects all of this information, but the hard work, the stuff behind the scenes, the raw data, the stuff that I'm seeing in Excel spreadsheets, it means that we can look at age, we can look at gender, we can look at low socioeconomic groupings and things like that. And it's really quite fascinating when you start looking at the difference between people's views depending on where they live or how old they are, etc. So what else can we do with the raw data that will really help to inform different operators around what it is that their customers are thinking and feeling?
Yeah, I mean, we have a famous saying in DataHub that leisure sector has always been a data-rich, information-poor sector. And I think we are crossing that bridge significantly in the past 5-6 years with all the great efforts from all partners around the DataHub and other sector bodies. Because unless that data turns into intelligence and that intelligence turns into actionable insight, it doesn't really mean much. It's just some nice stats on the screen. And I think it is this time where this becomes particularly important, because how quickly people recover will be determined by the understanding of the data and turning into this decision-making processes and into action. So I mean, just a couple of examples how you can cross-tabulate the data there. I mean, we know that people have been less active, 52% less active, but this percentage is particularly different whether you look at someone who has been doing group X in your facilities before versus someone doing gym activities or other sports in your centers. And also, if you look at the willingness to return question, the gym users and people who've been doing sports in the leisure facilities score much higher in terms of people who want to use the facilities more compared to the group X people. And this is is in line with the previous one, because you know that they managed to keep their activity levels at a certain degree while being away from the facility, whereas all the other people have been really missing to go back. So yes, cross-tabulation of the data and going into the deep understanding of it is going to be key. And likewise, if you look at the impact of COVID, it was very different for different deprivation layers, different mosaic segments and affluent areas versus less affluent areas. So asking the right questions to the data and then drawing the insight out of it will be important. And I think the second point in there will be accepting that this is a journey, not just a single point in time. Because if you look at the customer confidence question, the time of return ranges from 40% level at the early days of the reopening, going up to 85–90%. So the key is how you start at a lower point and put the right things in place and implement them, and also continuously monitor the performance. Because what you need to do is look at the data in an ongoing way to understand, are you doing better and worse than the rest of the sector? How can the information guide you to improve certain areas of your recovery plan? So I think the performance monitoring part will be particularly important to get to those activity levels quicker, or the targeted levels much quicker.
No, absolutely. And I think if I was an operator, and I have been in the past, I think this insight is around what should I be opening? How can I use different spaces in different ways? What sort of time should I be opening? Which demographic is going to be attracted to which part of the population? I think we could have some really interesting, intelligent responses to the way we reopen our buildings based on this. But I'm also interested because, of course, our survey was all about users. It was people who were already members. What sort of insight are you seeing from non-users, people who weren't members in the past? Have you seen anything that we can draw breath from? Because anecdotally, I'm seeing loads of people on bikes, I'm seeing loads of people running, I'm seeing loads of people walking. But as you said, 52% of our members are less active. So does that mean there's a new population group that's taking physical activity?
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's important to note that there has been specific questions in different surveys we looked at about non-members and their willingness to join the facilities after the lockdown period, because there is a new group arising that's interested in participating more in sports, and with the right offer, it is evident that they will be joining the facilities. Just to give you a data-led example, when we did the modeling, the sector continues to grow for about 6 months until it reaches the saturation point after the reopening, and the rates it will be reaching will be higher than the 85–86% that we've been quoting in the customer confidence levels, because there will be new entrants to the sector and there will be new people coming to the facilities and becoming active. Again, from a data perspective, what we are comparing is a forecasted growth if no COVID has happened, where the sector was expected to grow further, and how this will also help the sector to reach those levels, even if not exceed necessarily immediately. So definitely your point about putting the right offer in place to attract new entrants to the market will be a key indicator for that.
Okay. Well, I think we run the risk of giving too much away here. Okay, we've had a good conversation. I think we need to let people to digest what we've talked about, have a look at the summary report, and of course, if they want it, they can purchase the full report, and then we can do some even more interesting work around that raw data and segmentation. So at this moment in time, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time. Take care, and we'll speak soon. Take care, Utku. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Dave.